The Quran frequently talks about a people called Ad, who are an ancient tribe in pre-Islamic Arabia. Quran 46:21 mentions their location as a place called al-Haqq. The term means sand dunes. Classical commentaries such as Jalalain explains this in reference to a place in Yemen. According to the Quran, they became extinct after a storm came because they had rejected the teachings of a prophet called Hud. There are many unknowns about the Ad story, but due to what is contained within Islamic sources, Muslims have created all sorts of fantastical ideations about them, popularized by videos such as these. The Quran also associates Ad with the phrase Iram of the pillars. As the Quran is vague, this is sometimes thought to be a place or region where they may have lived, or the name of a people. In reference to Quran 89:7, Tafsir ibn Abbas connects the term Iram to the son of Noah, and according to Jalalain, the pillars they built was 400 cubits. This is around 182 meters tall, indicating that they were an advanced civilization as they were able to construct such huge buildings. The Quran in 769 describes them of immense stature. In Quran commentary Jalalain, it says the tallest of them was 100 feet tall, and the shortest were 60 feet. This is popularized by Muslims. Here is an example of a website called Life in Saudi Arabia. The link is below, where it provides images of their supposed remains. There is, of course, no independent verification of its authenticity, although it does not look genuine, but as long as it furthers the Islamic narrative, Muslims do not really care and have produced many videos on this subject. Again, like Thamud, as explained in the previous video, there is no biblical precedence for their account. However, Ad are mentioned in some pre-Islamic Arabic poetry, such as work attributed to Tarafa. Some of the wording from his poetry are similar to those found in the Quran. In Mufaddaliyat, an anthology of pre-Islamic Arabic poems, Dr. Jawad Ali, in the detailed book on the history of the Arabs before Islam, cites how the Ad were mentioned in pre-Islamic poetry collections, which includes references to Ad and Iram as a collocation, just like the Quran does. More reading on Ad being cited in pre-Islamic legends can be done in this source, the Encyclopedia of Islam. The Quran places their existence and destruction after the time of Noah, whose own time is estimated to be over 5,000 years ago, ergo indicating Ad's chronology of being thousands of years. It is of significance that in various places the Quran gives their existence sequentially, first Noah, then Ad, and then Thamud's destruction, and in that order. Here is an example in 14:9. In other places still, such as chapter 7, verses 60 to 74 onwards, it leaves no room for doubt, as it quite clearly says, Ad, a people of great stature, appeared after Noah, but before Thamud. Because of the Quranic accounts in this source called Islamic History Podcast, it says they existed after Noah and that they were from northwestern Arabia. Bearing in mind, earlier it was shown the Quran and its associated commentaries said it was in southern Arabia. In another source titled The Quranic Tribes of Ad, it mentions an archaeological inscription. Though cited as though it is in their favor as Muslims, actually it goes against the Quran because the inscription shows they did not exist in southern Arabia, nor did they exist thousands of years ago after the time of Noah, nor did they exist before Thamud as the Quran indicates. Rather, their existence, at least archaeologically, attests to them having overlapped sometime either with or after the Thamud, in conjunction with the later Nabateans. As for their giant stature and huge column buildings, no such independent academic or archaeological evidence has been able to verify this. So this discovery cited by this source does not support the Quran other than a people called Ad existed. But this was also claimed in pre-Islamic poetry. In fact, ancient Greeks gave a better description about them. More information will be given later about this. Not for the first time, there is a problem with the Quranic and Islamic sources account, as Ad cannot be proven as having existed after Noah's flood, nor is there evidence for a prophet called Hud, historically, who came to a people in southern Arabia of huge stature, who built huge strong buildings. Despite various attempts made to connect the Quranic Ad stories to historicity, it says on page 137 in this doctoral thesis by Professor Sulaiman Dost that the assumption of Muslim scholars about the provenance of Ad seems faulty in their attempts in trying to make associations to ancient Arab tribes or to Hud being an Old Testament prophet remains dubious as well. In summary, the topography in their geography to southern Arabia, as well as being placed as far back in time to Noah, is wrong, as they were more likely hailing from northern Arabia with close connections to the Nabateans and the Thamud. This is a period that ranges between the 10th century BC to the 3rd century AD. This timeline is nowhere near the time of Noah. Archaeology bears this out. In this research paper called Two North Arabian Inscriptions from the Temple of Lat at Wadi Iram by researchers Fawzi Zayadeen and Sabah Faris Drapo, in the Annual Department of Antiquities of Jordan Journal, it mentioned a temple called the Temple of the Goddess of Alat at the foot of Jabal Ram. It was built during the 1st century AD and has some ancient inscriptions mentioning Iram and Ad, who are identified as the said tribe, with the term pillars referring to tent pillars. In the conclusion section, it says Alat was known as the goddess of Iram. By the way, Alat is the feminine form of the word Allah, whose name is also found here in the name Abdullahi, which literally means servant of Allah, showing such names predate Islam by hundreds of years and often found written in a pagan context. The word Bait meant sanctuary or house. Today the term for Allah's house is used in reference to the Kaaba at Mecca. Incidentally, the same building was also called Baytullah before Islam by the pagan Arabs. In this research by Professor Healy confirms previous research. He writes the temple Iram of the Pillars associates a lot with being the goddess of the Iram temple built by the tribe of Ad in the 1st century AD. Alat was referred to as the goddess who is in Iram in a Thamudic inscription. That the association of Ad and Iram is known independently from the Quran. In reality, the whole elaborate Quranic Ad giant story and their destruction emanates from legends known to Arabs as Uber and similar variations. Like in many cultures before and since, such as the ancient Greeks with their Atlantis myth, a fictional island of nations mentioned in Plato's works as an allegory destroyed by deities due to their hubris, or the myth of Shangri-La, a fictional story about a lost Tibetan paradise associated with people who live long lives beyond that of normal mortals, or the myth of El Dorado, a lost city of gold in South America. So similar to the menagerie of legends before and since, the Ad story is the Arabian version. In English, it became known as Atlantis of the Sands, referring to a legendary lost place in the southern deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, destroyed by a natural disaster as a punishment by God. The archaeological site of Shisr in Oman was once an oasis and a settlement with an inland trading post, which has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. To add fuel to the myth, and no doubt advantageous for tourism, the area is speculated by some to have been that very location. Academic journals cover this topic. As it was considered to be the legendary lost city of Uber or Iram, and by the myths perpetuated by Muslims and Islamic sources, it was immortalized by books such as 1001 Nights, films, and video games. Indeed, it was 1001 Nights that propelled it into popular culture, where the most elaborate, detailed, and spectacular account of Iram made its way to European audiences. Night 277 of the 1001 Nights features the story of Iram, a story which reached the height of its grandiosity. The Ad were not a mythical entity who lived thousands of years ago with elaborate buildings and of giant stature whose skeletons have been discovered as propagated by Muslims, which no serious academic corroborates. The Ad were known to the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians during the 2nd century AD. They had not perished thousands of years ago after the time of Noah, as the Quran and Islamic sources claim. For example, Claudius Ptolemy, in his Geographus, refers to the area as the land of Labartae, a region which legends later refer to as Uber. This is referenced in this source. So in conclusion, the Quran seems to have latched onto some myths, legends and folklore with some sketchy details, and instead of being able to discern facts from fiction, it only goes on to reinforce and strengthen these myths. Naturally, Muslims still propagate these fables and myths because of the teachings of their holy book, the Quran, and its subsequent sources. The Quran is a book that gets the timeline about Ad, their geography, characteristics and characters, their purpose, modus operandi, and their ultimate demise entirely wrong. This is the same Quran that claims to be a clear and detailed book, yet it did not get anything clear about them nor provide any such detail for Ad, and what little it does provide is incorrect. This is the same for other issues that has been explained so far in these video series.